Good day and welcome everyone, Stuart here from Northern Bolt & Tool, and today we're going to be answering one of the most frequently asked questions, and that is, does size matter with regard to batteries? I know what you guys are thinking there. Anyway, so we've had customers both online and in our store asking, do you get better performance if you've got a bigger battery? And a lot of people say no, some guys say yes. In our comment section there have been many debates, and what some guys are saying is that for tools that have a higher energy need, the smaller batteries are not able to provide that amount of current and juice to that tool to enable it to reach its full potential. So they say on tools that have a higher energy demand, a larger battery will in fact give you better performance. So we're going to test that on these two drills. We've got one with a brushless motor and one with a brush motor. We'd like to see if battery size affects them differently, if it affects them at all. And we're going to have a look and see what we're able to achieve with these two machines with the different batteries. Over here we've got 1.5 amp hour battery, 2 amp hour battery, 4 amp hour battery, 5 amp hour battery, 6 amp hour battery, and a 7.5 amp hour battery. That's the whole Ingco range that is currently available. The 1.5 amp hour battery is only available in one of the drill kits, so it's not available as a loose unit, but we had one laying around, so we're going to throw it in and see what we're able to get out of it. So that's it. Let's get into some of the testing and have a look and see how these machines perform. Alright guys, so this is just an RPM test. There's no load on the machine. So based on what the theory is that we've read, this should not make a difference with regard to what battery use. There's no load on the machine. So we should get more or less the same RPM across all of these batteries. So as I said, they are fully charged, so we're good to go. So 1740-ish on the 1.5 amp hour battery. $1,190 off the two. That's quite a bit better, I must say. Bit of an increase in performance over there. About 1,930 on the 4. $1,900 on the 5, so not quite as much as the 4, interestingly enough. $1,940 on the 6. $1,960 on the 7.5. So we saw a gradual increase in performance with the brushless motor. So let's get the brush drill out and let's see if there's a difference between these batteries. Alright guys, we've got the 1.5 amp hour and the brushed motor drill. Let's see how we get on. $1,470 on the 1.5. $1,560 on the 2. About 1,580 on the 4. $1,570 on the 5. $1,580 on the 6. and 1580 on the 7.5. Alright guys, so what exactly happened? Well, in terms of the brushed unit, the 1.5 amp hour battery's RPM was significantly lower than the 2, but between the 2 amp hour and all the way up to the 7.5 amp hour, RPM was pretty similar, indicating that there's no real massive performance gain in terms of just unloaded RPM with regard to a 2 amp hour battery to the 7.5. So 1.5 definitely lacking, 2 a little bit better, and that carried all the way through. In terms of the brushless tool though, however, this tool seemed to be able to take advantage of the high capacity batteries a little bit better than the brushed unit. We saw a gradual increase all the way through the range up to the 7.5 amp hour battery, which topped out at about 1960 RPM. With that said, there was a slight outlier in the 5 amp hour battery where it dropped off slightly from the 4 amp hour battery, but the 6 picked up again and we topped out with the 7.5 amp hour battery. So unloaded RPM size does have a small impact on the unloaded RPM of each of these drills. Alright guys, so as per our previous tests, we're going to be driving these screws into this wood. We've got our batteries lined up, they are fully charged. This is the brushless machine. This is the 66 Newton meter drill that we've just tested, in case you guys are interested. We're going to be using gear number 2, so the fastest setting really put the batteries under as much stress as possible and the tool as much pressure as possible as well. So let's see how we get on. We are on drill. Okay, cool. 3, 2, 1. There you go guys, let's have a look at the time and see if there was a difference between them. Alright guys, so in terms of time, you could see that the 1.5 amp hour battery really struggled on this machine. It wasn't able to shoot the screw all the way in without stopping, and I had to restart the drill a couple of times to get it all the way in. It did eventually go, but there's definitely a performance disadvantage on the 1.5 amp hour battery. The 2 amp hour battery was the first in the range that was able to drill the screw in without any issues, but we did again see a decrease in time between the 2 amp hour battery moving up the range to the 7.5 amp hour battery. That time difference though was about 0.6 of a second between the 2 and the 7.5 amp hour battery, and you can see how it improved in speed as the size of the battery increased. So in terms of the 7.5, that did it in 3 seconds, whereas the 2 amp hour battery did the test in about 3.6 seconds. So you can see there is an advantage to having a bigger battery on the brushless motor with this type of application, but yeah, 1.5 amp hour battery really battled on this. But yeah, that's the result for the brushless unit with this type of test. Alright guys, got the brushed drill over here. We're first going to do the test in gear number 1, and we're going to see how long it takes us to drive all these screws in. Then we're going to switch up to gear number 2 and see how far in we can go with each of these screws until the machine cuts out on the first attempt. So with that said, let's get into it. 3, 2, 1. There you go, guys. Now we're going to just charge these up again, and we're going to try it on gear number 2 and see how the tests compare. Alright guys, we're here with the brushed machine again. We've got it in gear number 2. So let's see how far we're able to drive these screws in until the machine cuts out. Once it cuts out, that'll be the end. We'll move on to the next battery. So let's see with the 1.5. Let's go. And 7. Now I must say they all look pretty even. Let's get the ruler out and let's measure them and see how far these all went in. Alright guys, so in the first test driving the screws into the wood with gear number 1, we saw that the 1.5 amp hour battery did struggle a little bit. It still drove it in all the way, no problems, but we saw a bit of a time difference between this one, the 1.5 amp hour battery, and the 2 amp hour battery. The 1.5 amp hour battery did in about 11.7 seconds, whereas the 2 amp hour battery took about 10.5 seconds. From there up, there were very slight improvements between the 2 amp hour battery moving up towards the 7.5 amp hour battery. Similar to our RPM test, not a massive gain in advantage with the brushed unit with the bigger size battery, but the 7.5 amp hour battery did the test in 10.12 seconds, and the 2 amp hour battery did it in 10.5. So, you know, 0.4 of a second more or less between them. So yeah, there is a slight improvement on the brush unit, but not as much as maybe the brushless unit. With regard to test number 2, driving the screw in as far as we could, we saw that there was no massive difference between the batteries. The 1.5 and the 2 amp hour battery did the same, about a 50 mil more or less, and the 4 amp hour battery got it down to 35 mil. From there, it ranged between 35 and 40 mil going into this piece of wood. So a slight improvement up to a point, and then it kind of like plateaued a little bit, and there was no real performance advantage over 4 amp hour battery upwards. So that's the test, guys. Let's move on to the next one. Alright guys, got the brushless drill over here, got this coach screw. Gonna start with the 1.5 amp hour battery. We're going to run this test in gear number 1 to try and get the maximum torque output from these machines, and we're going to see if the batteries make a difference. So it's the 1.5 in 3, 2, 1. And that was 20.1 Newton meters. Time for the 2 amp hour battery. 24.6. Alright guys, I've got the 4 amp hour battery on. And we've got 27 Newton meters of torque. Alright guys, here with the 5 amp hour battery. $26.6. Alright guys, I've got the 6 amp hour battery in. And we've got 27 Newton meters of torque. Alright guys, last up, the 7.5. And that's also 27 Newton meters of torque. Alright guys, so our torque test is complete and the results are in. We noticed a performance advantage over the 1.5 when you move to 2 amp hour battery, and from the 2 to the 4. From 4 moving to 5, 6 and 7, the result plateaued a bit, and we didn't really see a massive performance advantage in terms of torque with this particular test. So let's move on to the brush unit and see how that performs. Alright guys, we've got the brush drill over here. We've got it in gear number 1. We've got the 1.5 amp hour battery in, normal drive mode. And that gave us 16.8. Alright guys, we've got the 2 amp hour battery installed. 17.5. Alright guys, I've got the 4 amp hour battery installed. And that's 16.7. Alright guys, I've got the 5 amp hour battery here. And that's 17.5 again on the nose. Alright guys, I got it, the first chunky boy up here, the 6 amp hour battery. And that's 17.5 again. Let's check the 7.5 and see if anything changes. And we're able to get 17.3 on this one. So all pretty consistent, the tests. Alright guys, interestingly enough, with regard to the brushed unit, we didn't see a difference or a significant difference in the torque output from the machine when we moved from battery to battery. It seems that the brushless machine is much more capable of utilizing the extra capacity from the battery to generate torque, whereas the brushed unit, it is not as effective as utilizing that extra juice that the battery is able to provide. So with that said, let's get into the final conclusion and discuss these batteries further. Alright guys, so in conclusion, with the brushed machine, we saw that there wasn't any major advantages to using a bigger battery as opposed to a smaller battery in terms of outright performance, peak performance. Obviously, you'd be able to run the machine longer on a larger battery, but I don't think size makes too much of a difference if you've got a brushed machine. With regard to brushless, however, the machine is able to utilize the extra juice that the battery is able to provide a lot more effectively. And I suspect if you've got those brushless tools that utilize and have a bigger energy demand, you would get better performance out of using a bigger battery as compared to a smaller battery. But with regard to these batteries in terms of size and weight, that also comes into play. You can't always have the biggest battery on your drill, for example. If you're going to be holding it every day, you know, the fatigue will be quite immense, and you might actually find that a smaller battery for that type of application is a little bit better. With regard to value for money and our recommendation, I would not recommend a 1.5 amp hour battery. It's no good. It is not freely available. It's only available in a kit, so you don't need to worry about that. The 2 amp hour battery is a good battery. It won't deliver your peak performance compared to the others, but for applications where you need a smaller size or you're working in a tight space, the 2 amp hour battery is definitely one to consider. And also in terms of weight, if your application is weight sensitive, the 2 amp hour battery is definitely advantageous compared to the others. I'll get into the weights shortly, but this brings us on to the battery that we would recommend, and that is this 4 amp hour battery. We saw that the performance of this 4 amp hour battery was very similar to the 5, 6 and 7.5. And in terms of pricing, this battery is very well priced compared to the 5, 6 and 7.5. You can buy approximately 1.5 4 amp hour batteries for every 5 amp hour battery, to put it into perspective. So our recommendation would be to purchase a few 4 amp hour batteries. So in applications where you're going to be going through batteries, you can have 1 on charge or 2 on charge, and you can be working with a battery and you can charge while you are working. So in terms of price and performance, 4 amp hour battery for us, this is the one we'd recommend, but there's nothing wrong with all of these choices over here. The 5 amp hour battery will obviously give you a little bit longer life, and the 6 and 7 obviously will give you longer life as they go up as well. So it is very much application dependent on which battery would be best for you and your application. So with that in mind, in terms of weight, the 1.5 amp hour battery is 366 grams. The 2 amp hour battery comes in at 388. The 4 amp hour battery is 637. The 5 amp hour battery is 650 grams. The 6 amp hour battery is 964 grams. And interestingly enough, the 7.5 amp hour battery is about 30 grams lighter than the 6 amp hour battery and comes in at 934 grams. So that shows you that if you need something that is a little bit more lightweight and you don't want to be holding it up like a drill, if you're drilling a lot of holes every day, you know, fatigue could become a bit of an issue with a heavier battery. So having multiple lighter batteries might, in that instance, be a bit better. Obviously, if you don't have access to power and you need longevity and runtime, go for the larger battery. Your performance will be optimized and you will get much more life out of it, depending on which size you obviously go for. With that in mind, and the size and weights of each of these batteries, you could say that size makes a difference, but not always. It's very much application dependent. And I hope that by showing you guys a little bit of insight into the performance of these batteries on these tools, you guys are able to make a more informed decision. So thank you guys very much for watching. Please comment down below if you'd like to see these tested on a different type of tool. We're always open to suggestions and ideas. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. If you'd like to purchase any of these batteries, they are available both in our store, we'll have an address down below, and our online store where we will have a link to our battery catalog. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned a few things. We certainly learned a few things about these batteries and their performance. So thank you very much, and I'll catch you again next week.